Cool.
Hang on. Okay, go.
Cool. Yeah, so we've got Vikki Mead on tonight. Vikki, thanks for joining us. She's going to be covering a talk on canine behaviour. Vic, as I sort of mentioned prior to sort of going on the live, the reason for these sort of talks in the series that we're releasing, obviously we've been keeping an eye on sort of things over the last sort of 12 months and a bit longer. And with the puppy boom, obviously in the pandemic, and people buying a lot more animals than perhaps they should have, we've been trying to locate sources of information, figure out where people are getting their advice from on the care of the animals, and the general public is kind of sharing information that perhaps isn't safe. So we've put together a series of videos. It's going to be an ongoing series that address general animal behaviour. So Vikki is qualified in pet care assistance. She's a certificate as a puppy specialist, completed canine language certificate to become a canine body language specialist. She's going to be covering body language versus emotion, aggression, understanding normal play, and misconceptions and frequent questions in your animals. So she knows her stuff. So yeah, the information that you're about to receive is legitimate. But yeah, I'll pass you across now. Thank you very much, Vikki.
Thank you. So hi everyone, I hope you're all well. So I'm going to start off with emotions and the body language associated with it. When observing body language, we're observing such structures such as your eyes, your ears, tongue, mouth, tail, coat, and their posture. So I'm going to start off with your sort of happy and relaxed dog. A happy and relaxed dog will have almond-shaped eyes with no visible wrinkles around their face. They'll often demonstrate a slow blink to us and other dogs to show they're not a threat or they're happy to engage. You may also find they might squint their eyes, which again, this demonstrates to us that they're not a threat, they're approachable, and also want to make us even another dog happy. Their mouth is often open and doesn't hold any tension. If they're licking their lips at us or other dogs, this could be a sign of appeasement, attention seeking, or even self-comfort, as it does release endorphins. And lastly, they'll also have a windmill tail, or often called a helicopter tail, and this is where the tail goes round and round in a circle. So we're now going to look at your dog who's sort of anxious, stressed, worried, nervous, or even fearful. They may display hard eyes, whale eye, their pupils are dilated, or they may avoid eye contact. Whale eye is where you can see the whites of the dog's eyes and is often seen when a dog is guarding something like a toy or a chew. There is a low and pinned back, but their tongue demonstrates a spatulate shape where the length is elongated, is wider at the base, and is crinkled. However, this can often be seen in a dog that's either in pain or they might be panting to cool themselves down. They generally have their mouths closed, but if you see that they snap their mouth shut, they could be showing signs of alertness and or even a warning signs to others, so just be aware of that. Yawning is also a common sign which people often don't realise, but it's important to know that it can also be catching. Just like us, if we see another person yawn, we can't help but yawn back. The tail is often tucked down and under to close off their scent glands, to hide themselves, and this is often demonstrated when they're eating because they're in such a vulnerable position here. The coat will also shed more than normal, but it's important to rule out whether it could be due to a change in diet, a change in environment, whether it's due to the season, and that a visit to the vet can confirm it's not due to any other medical reason. And lastly, this is something I often see during dog interactions, and it's a great indication. A dog will demonstrate a full body shake off despite not being wet to relieve any tension or stress going through the body. This behaviour is a great way to help us understand that the dog may have found that interaction or play was a little bit stressful for them. So I'm now going to go through your sort of alert, over-aroused, overexcited, or your hypervigilant dog. Their ears will be forward and high. They'll do an intense stare, and their eyes will become round in shape, but the eyebrows will be furrowed, and this demonstrates they're holding a lot of tension in their face. They may just demonstrate a high, slow, or stiff wag. However, if the tail is high up, this means they're expressing their scent. This could show they're a little bit overconfident, they're considered to be a bit rude, and they're ready to take action or are even thinking of what their next move may be. They may also snarl, but this could be a final warning, and they may present their hackles, which can start from the tip of their nose to the tip of their tail in a complete straight line all the way down. However, it's important to understand the difference between your warning snarl and a play snarl. Because I'm sure we've sort of all been in that situation where you've got a dog that's come up to your dog and they begin snarling, but the owner's sort of turned around and gone, oh, don't worry, he's friendly, just quite vocal. And it's just really hard to know what to do within those situations. If a dog's weight is distributed forward, their ears are up and alert, and the dog is wagging their tail, then they're most likely to be friendly. However, if their weight is distributed backwards, the tail is stiff, down or even high up, the ears are pinned backwards, they're presenting whale eye or hard eyes, then that snarl could often mean the dog's a little bit unhappy. Arousal is how responsive your dog is to stimuli within the environment. Emotions such as fear, overexcitement, and nervousness all have an effect on arousal, which ultimately has an effect on the process of how positive and negative events are processed and their end emotion. The higher a dog is aroused, the more likely the dog will make a bad choice, and this is simply because they can't think straight. When looking at arousal, an example of describing it is that we have a bucket and a few glasses of water. The more water we pour into the bucket, the closer we get to the top, and that top of the bucket is the dog's threshold. Events, whether they're negative or positive, will continuously add to the volume of water within the bucket. So let's say in the morning the dog played ball, then mid-morning there was a new visitor in the house, then later in the day they chased a cat, and then you go for a walk and meet a new dog. All these events help build up to your dog's threshold throughout the day. So arousal should be considered on a daily basis, but it's important to note that arousal can take up to 72 hours to leave a dog's body. So if you have a particular day where your dog has come across a few triggers, there's nothing wrong with just giving your dog a day off. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about aggression. Aggression is something, in my opinion, that I feel is a little bit misunderstood. So aggression starts off as fear, and fear feeds aggression. So we need to remind ourselves that it's their only defense mechanism kicking in to obviously defend themselves. Aggression is self-reinforcing and can be a learnt behaviour. This is because they can learn what behaviours do or do not work for them. For example, a dog will work their way through behaviours to stop engaging whatever it may be. However, if we don't pick up on those body language signs or behaviours, they'll just simply move on to the next best thing, such as from growling to snapping. So the next time, the dog will skip all the behaviours, go straight to snapping, because they know that and have learned that that behaviour previously has got the result that they want, such as sort of stopping the engagement. It's important to note that punishing a behaviour will also enforce this behaviour skipping as well. If they get told off for snarling, despite the fact that technically we kind of ignored or didn't really see or understand the body language signs that they displayed, then the dog will simply just move on to the next best thing, in this case, growling. It's important to note that scent does drive emotion. They have around 300 million scent receptors in their nose, whereas we actually only have 7 million. They build up memories from scent, As an example, during a negative experience, there may have been a certain scent. If they smell that certain scent again, but within a different environment, they're most likely to have sort of a flashback, and that will remind them of that negative experience. So with all that information in mind, it doesn't mean the same for every dog. Breed genetics can play a huge role in canine body language, and this should be considered when evaluating it. Breeds with long droopy ears, such as Basset Hounds, cannot prick their ears up, and pointy ear breeds, such as French Bulldogs, are unable to drop their ears down and pin them back. Chow Chows and Pugs all have tails that are curved up, and this can make them come a little bit more intimidating and ruder to other dogs. When discussing whale eye, it's important to remember that Bulldog breeds are prone to saggy eyelids, and therefore they naturally show the whites of their eyes. So this can be a common sort of interpretation from our point of view. So although I've just gone through sort of a rough guide of all the behaviours displayed versus the emotion your dog could be feeling, it's really important to factor in context, frequency, combination, and repetition. Context is where you look at the whole dog as a picture and what is happening around them. The environment and different people surrounding a dog will actually make a dog behave very differently, and this is really vital to consider. It helps us decide whether the dog is panting because they're stressed or simply because they're just hot, or is that dog wagging their tail because they're happy or fearful. Repetition is where the dog is repeating behaviours. The number of times a dog offers a behaviour is a major component when observing. Frequency is how often the dog is offering that behaviour, and combination is like what other behaviours are also being offered, and this gives a better insight into the dog's emotional state. And then lastly, evaluation. This is where we evaluate the purpose of the behaviour offered, what did they gain, and what is the end result of that. So this all goes to show that not one part of the body or one behaviour displayed is a promise that a dog is feeling just one particular emotion. However, again, piecing the whole body together and including the environment is the correct way to observe your dog's body language, to come to a conclusion, and to act to help your dog. So I thought I'd discuss a little bit about understanding play, just because I feel like this is something as owners we really struggle understanding whether the dogs are playing nicely or a little bit too rough. So there are two types of behaviour change categories. So you have your green flag behaviours and your red flag behaviours. Your green flag behaviours are those you want to see in play, and the red flag behaviours are the ones you most likely that you don't really want to see. So, however, it is important to note that two dogs that know each other will play completely different to two dogs that have just met. Generally, if they know each other, the play is a lot ruder, is a lot tougher, and they tend to be a little bit more tolerant of each other. So although they may display some of the red flag behaviours I'm going to talk about, it sometimes can mean that the play is good, as long as you see some of those green flag behaviours too. So I'm going to start off with your green flag behaviours. You have mirror and match, and this is where both dogs copy each other. It's almost as if you just got a mirror and put it in between them both. You have a thing called balance, and this is where it's just not only one dog being chased, they both take it turns to be chased or be the chaser, and this should be seen amongst all types of play. You have self-handicapping. An example of this is that a dog might slow down their normal running pace to match the other dog, or you can have a large dog that's playing with a small dog, and that larger dog will tend to bow or lay down or bend over to that small dog's height. You have exaggerated vocalization, so they tend to be a little bit louder than normal. This is absolutely fine as long as they have really good soft body language. So next up is soft body language, and this is where the dogs will have their mouth open, they'll have really wiggly bums, they'll have a waggy tail, and they'll be really bouncy in general. This lovely soft body language is so important to see during play. And then lastly, for your green flag behaviours is pauses in play. This is great to see as it allows the dogs to process and assess the interaction that has just happened and to think of their next move. It's also really good at capping that arousal and just making sure that they're not going over their threshold. So I'm going to move on to your red flag behaviours. You have scent marking. If this is seen in play, you do not want to let that play continue. This behaviour shows that the arousal levels could be too high. The dog might be really nervous or fearful or uncomfortable in that situation. You have something called T-shaping, and this is where the dog puts their head on another dog's head, neck or shoulder area. This is considered to be quite a rude behaviour and shouldn't be seen with two dogs that don't know each other. However, this behaviour is okay if the two dogs know each other, but they're also doing that green flag behaviour, what we call mirror matching, so they're both doing it as well. Next up is mounting. If this is seen in play, the play must stop and should not be continued. That dog is overexcited, over-aroused, could be stressed or fearful or uncomfortable, and could be using this behaviour as a coping mechanism. And lastly, for your red flag behaviours, you have uninvited body contact. So this is mostly seen with your puppies. So when you get a new puppy and you bring it into the home where you've already got a dog, and it can go from the dog being constantly in the dog's face, or it can change over to the dog has constantly got the nose to the other dog's bum. So to set your dog up for success, when greeting other dogs, the speed of approach should be nice and slow to stop arousal levels from increasing rapidly. It allows the dog to process and assess the interaction. However, one thing that people don't often realise is that you shouldn't let your dogs meet head on. It really allows stares off and can be quite intimidating. The best angle of approach is actually side by side. It allows some space, and you can gradually take it in turns to go in front of each other so both dogs can sniff each other's scents. If both dogs are calm, showing really calm body language, then the dogs should be allowed to greet each other, but we normally recommend only for about 3 seconds and then go back to returning walking side by side. This allows them to process the interaction, provides a much calmer atmosphere, and the interactions later on will be a lot calmer as well. So I'm going to move on to common misconceptions and frequent questions I get asked. So, a dog's hackles only go up when the dog is aggressive. This is wrong. Hackles on a dog is an involuntary action and is presented when a dog could be nervous, unsure of the situation, overexcited, and over-aroused. Secondly, we have panting and drooling is only seen to cool themselves down or when the dog is anticipating food. This isn't actually quite right. It can be seen as a sign of aggression, fear, pain, or anxiousness. Then we've got when a dog wags their tail, it means they're happy. This is something I hear quite a lot, especially during play. So this isn't true at all. Dogs wag their tail if they're nervous, anxious, stressed, guarding something, unsure of the situation, or showing aggressive tendencies. A happy dog with a happy wag is where the wag will go through to their bum, to their hips, and through to the rest of the body. So basically the whole body is just wiggling too. A study has been done, and it's also believed that if a tail is leaning towards the right side, hand side, they're experiencing a really positive experience. However, if the tail is leaning towards the left, it's believed that they're experiencing a negative experience. When a dog is leaning into you, they're trying to be dominant. This is actually false. They're doing it for reassurance, to get attention, and just for a little bit of comfort. My dog is toilet trained in the house and looked guilty afterwards. So he obviously knows he did wrong. The guilty look. So dogs have a mental and emotional ability of a 2.5-year-old child by the age of sort of 4 to 6 months. So they can feel emotions such as joy, happiness, anger, grief, love, and depression. We know as a child gets older, they learn and develop more emotions. Examples of these are sort of pride, guilt, shame, and contentment. But this isn't the same for dogs. These emotions, sort of pride, guilt, shame, actually develop when a child reaches over the age of 2.5, of which we already know dogs can't develop emotions at this age point. So actually, the guilty look people often see after a dog has toileted or ripped something up, or like it says, something they shouldn't have done, that face is actually the face of a dog that's really fearful. So unfortunately, dogs can't feel guilt. So that statement is false. You can feed fear. So what I mean by this is that it's believed amongst a lot of dog owners and a lot of dog trainers is that if you've got a dog that's fearful towards something, whether that's an object, person, sound, environment, other dog, whatever it may be, then feeding it treats during this fearful scenario, you're rewarding that fear, and then therefore you're rewarding the behaviour that isn't true. But you're rewarding that behaviour, and this just generally isn't true. But also this theory just doesn't quite make sense. I hate heights, I completely hate them. But if I get put on a really tall building and got given a piece of cake every time I was on that building, over time my emotional reaction will change to a positive one, because I'll start to anticipate a positive reward within the environment. So making me eat cake whilst I'm on the tall building isn't going to make me more scared of heights. However, it will add to my lockdown body. So next one is, should I eat before my dog? This is a theory based on sort of what people think wolf packs do. Within the wild, if there is a carcass that's big enough, they'll all eat together. However, actually the cubs have priority because they actually need it the most. This theory of, oh, I should eat before my dog is a really old gun dog theory. So you really don't have to eat before your dog. You should always go through the door before your dog. Again, this is related to some sort of gun dog, sort of wolf pack theory. And truthfully, in the wild, if there was something scary, that the mum and dad, or the leaders, whatever you'd like to call them, would not be the ones to go in first and inspect it. This is done because it's to protect the mum and dad and maintain their safety. So the younger wolves would actually be the one to investigate it, because as harsh as it may sound, they're almost replaceable. If the mum or dad or both of them was to die, the wolf pack itself would just break down and disperse. We only teach this behaviour for manners and safety within dog training. Am I letting my dog be the leader when he walks in front of me? The walking to hill theory is more for us humans, as we can see our dogs at all times, and was created by old gun dog methods. So this theory doesn't really relate to any wolf packs, but if we were looking at a wolf pack, they would actually rotate who was in front, and especially in deep snow. What is the socialization period in puppies, and when does it start? So it starts around about 3 weeks age and continues around the age of 12, 14 weeks. The socialization period is a critical stage of a puppy's development, where they should be exposed to a variety of humans, other dogs, other animals, sounds, and environments. During this period, any traumatic or frightening or painful experiences will have a more lasting effect or set your puppy back. It's also very important that you continue to expose your puppy to new things during this stage, but it's essential to make sure that that experience is as positive as it can be. So what is adolescence and what age does it begin? It starts at the age of sort of 6 to 9 months and can last up to sort of 18 months to 2 years. Hormones start to generate roughly at 6 months and will still start control the brain, frustration control, impulse control, self-control and tolerance. It's much harder to socialise them during this period because of their hormones. You might often hear people say, oh, this is their teenage sort of period. And trust me, it's very true. So the next one is pregnant stressed mums are most likely to have offsprings that are more likely to be anxious. This is so true, and I can't stress this enough. People just don't often realise this, but it does contribute to many reasons as to why it's so important to meet the mums of any puppies you're going to buy. You have toilet training should really start with the breeder. Again, I really couldn't stress this enough. This is so true. It's so important to make sure that they're doing, when you're going to see a litter of puppies, you should ask what toilet training the breeder's doing or has done, and assess generally how clean the environment is. A puppy that grows up in an untidy or unclean environment do not tend to be very fussy as to where they toilet, and it therefore makes toilet training for new owners so much more difficult. How often should I take my puppy out to toilet? So generally the rule is like when they wake up, after eating, after drinking, after any type of interaction, whether that's playing or meeting new people, or whether you're doing a bit of training, you have new environments, but otherwise generally just every hour. How do I know if my puppy needs to go to the toilet, and how long should I spend outside with them? So they'll start to circle around, or they might start sniffing the floor quite a bit. They could suddenly run out of the room or become really frustrated and frantic. I recommend spending no longer than 10 minutes outside. If you reach this time limit and they haven't toileted, I'd go back inside, give them 5 minutes. If they're displaying some of the toileting signs, then I'd head back out. Putting a small time limit helps your dog become less distracted if they spend too much time outside. I often hear people going, oh, I spent half an hour outside. Well, I think if I spent half an hour outside, I probably would find some other things to do. So it's important to try and keep them short and sweet. So our back door is always open, but the puppy still toilets in the house. Well, this is actually quite a common thing. Puppies tend to struggle to learn the differentiation of toileting in the house and outside the house, and will also generally they don't learn the act of taking themselves out to toilet if the back door's always open. So it just might be a little bit easier if you just keep those doors shut, just to help sort of teach your puppy their toilet training. Is my puppy scent marking or being dominant if they go to the toilet in front of me? This is quite common. So no, not at all. They have no need to be dominant. They're not really dominant animals. It's more of a sign, I would say, showing that how comfortable they are with you. But they are just going to the toilet, just like a toddler would do. So should I put my puppy in a smaller crate to stop them from toileting overnight? Again, I've had this one quite a few times as well. This method is more likely to increase your puppy's anxiety about going to the toilet, and also will increase the risk of them just urinating everywhere anyway, because when you come down to let them out, they'll just urinate due to excite them. So this method doesn't fully teach them the foundations of toilet training. Why do puppies bite, and how do I stop it? They normally bite because they're bored, creating a game, attention seeking, overexcited, over-aroused. If they're hungry, exploring, could be a breed genetic thing, or they're just generally overtired. So it's important to ask yourself, well, why are they biting? When are they biting? When does the biting tend to stop? When does the behaviour become worse? And when does the behaviour tend to improve? These questions are really good at helping us understand the biting and why puppies do it. To stop the biting, what you shouldn't do is yelp like you're a puppy, because this could be quite scary for them and quite traumatic. If you tap them on the nose, again, this is quite sort of traumatic for them. Shouting no, or if you put them on timeout, the use of pet correctors or stones in a bottle or water spray, these are all really sort of harsh punishments, really. But what you should do is preempt the play biting. You can redirect the play onto something more appropriate, whether it's a toy or a chew. Generally just remove the social interaction because they could just be over aroused. And also look at why they're biting. Is it nearly their dinner time? So my last question was what I saw on the discussion page on Facebook, was about 8:30 every night my dog tries to get my attention and I have no idea why. She gets plenty of exercise, she's fed and she has treats in the evening, but she still wants something. So there are quite a few reasons why our dogs might demand our attention. They might be, like it says on the tin, just attention seeking. They could be bored, they could be trying to engage in play, or it could be a learnt behaviour. The owner stated that the dog is exercised. However, does the dog receive enough enrichment? Things like Kongs, licky mats or puzzle feeders should be a part of your dog's routine, as it helps with problem solving and tolerance levels. The owner also has stated that the dog gets treats in the evening. So this behaviour could be anticipation of treats in the evening. I don't know whether sort of 8:30 is roughly when they get treats, but it could be an anticipation of the treat. But it might be a whole range of things, and this is why context is so important. So without knowing a bit more information, it's quite hard to answer that question fully. But I hope with some of my sort of reasons as to why your dog could be demanding your attention, that it might help you sort of try and understand what your dog's trying to say to you. So we've come to the end of my talk. I hope everyone has found it really interesting and useful. I've just discussed these topics very briefly, so I haven't mentioned every single emotion versus every single body language a dog has displayed, because otherwise we'll be here forever. I've tried mentioning what I find really useful and important as a dog owner, rather than discussing and talking at you and sort of becoming a bit boring. But I just wanted to thank you all so much for being here tonight. It's been amazing to do this. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And a huge thank you to Ollie and Molly and the VetLink team for organising this event and inviting me here today. They will share this on the Facebook event with my email in the post. So if anyone has any questions, then please feel free to give me a message and I'll love to answer all your questions. So thank you so much, everyone. Bye.